Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Fallout 3. It's been kind of a while since I played again. I keep taking these small breaks. Uh, there, I looked at some of the quest places and where bobblehead locations, and yeah, there does seem like I may have missed a couple things that I'll have to go through, but a lot of the bobblehead locations also seem to just be still in these very specific locations that we just have not reached yet, and it's kind of odd that the last bits of content would also be in the last few places I look. Um, yeah, it's really questionable whether I should be bothering to take sugar bombs or mentats or anything. This is one of these metro stations that I suspect we're going to find very quickly just is collapsed in on each of the sides, and that there actually is nothing here, which is kind of understandable, certainly. There's some bobby pins, and we'll take bottle caps. And yeah, this is just some more feral ghouls, which you definitely can tell how the whole underworld and non-feral ghouls concept of the story is just kind of thrown out there, and then it just doesn't go very far. It doesn't play a big role. It could have played a big role. It kind of plays a big role with Tenpenny Tower and Underworld, but then you don't see any non-feral ghouls in any other location at all in the entire game. It's just they are a good exception, I suppose, between to give you some variety as far as fighting raiders, which, yeah, if they didn't exist in the game, we would be constantly fighting raiders in their stead. So I can't say it was a mistake to have feral ghouls in the game. I can just say it wasn't very implemented well. Arguably, you could have flipped at least a couple of places where we ran into super mutants into feral ghouls, and you still feel like you need yet another type of enemy to potentially replace where Arlington Cemetery South, People's Republic. What radio station was that? People's Republic of America radio station found.
Greetings to the oppressed masses from the peace-loving peoples of China. Why do you continue to send your boys to die for your capitalist masters? Do you think your readers will keep you safe?
So we got some Chinese signal.
Die while the Wall Street gang and the hangers-on live like kings and...
Seems like it kind of goes quiet as soon as I start walking.
All peace-loving peoples must join together to stop the war of aggression being waged by the Wall Street gang.
So that signal seems only to work in that one spot. Interesting enough. And so I'm guessing what happens is that this let me out. And we have now Mama Dolce's that we can go to. Should just be over there. Unfortunately, 4 minutes in, I'm going to have to pause this recording. This is one of those false starts. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. As soon as I sit upright, half the time I end up needing to go to the bathroom these days. So they're reusing these faces, although I have no idea who these faces are even supposed to represent, if they're supposed to represent anybody in particular. Like, there should be. I can't see which way I'm looking. Mama Dolce's should just be just this direction of that unfilled in triangle. So looking around here, it seems pretty walled off in this section. And I kind of feel like what they've done here is that we've seen in a couple places there are just locations where they have walled off entire areas so that you can't accidentally reach them. And what that has created is a scenario where, yes, you can accidentally reach them, but you also can't you can't really find the locations. So I'm just thinking that all around here we see an actual cemetery, and you'd think this would almost be like a spooky section with a quest around it, and I don't think there really is. And honestly, I think Arlington National Cemetery is probably a lot bigger than this, and I think their crosses and such are in much more of a linear fashion, lined up perfectly, so I don't know why you would have done that. There are rocks here that kind of look like they might be headstones, and I don't think Arlington National Cemetery has headstones, per se. You have a kind of odd parking section here. Of course, this is an alternate history or set in the future, so it is totally possible that the Arlington National Cemetery of like 2020 changed its appearance to 2077 when the bombs fell. So, is this Mama Dolce's processed foods? So it seems like they just decided there must be a factory for every type of item that exists in the game. And so in some weird circular logic, food distribution, they've added a whole bunch of junk and then added a whole bunch of factories where there's really nothing else here. This is just kind of an experiment of, can they make slightly taller buildings that are more bombed out? And I kind of wish I have seen more of this, but you don't really see more of that. This is basically the same layout of another building we've already seen. And it would have been fine to just have, it's kind of weird to have a water tower in the middle of the city, but whatever. Or at least a water tower that easily visible in the middle of the city. Well, the problem with that water tower too is, unless it was a lot taller, it's not tall enough to push the water up to the top of even a couple of floors of a building. And usually you want to have the water pressure in a city go up at least 4 floors, which would be roughly 44 feet, 40 feet. And you want it to be at a specific pressure, so you're usually going to want to have your water tower very high, much higher than 44 feet in the air. Yeah, I wish I saw more of this. I think it would make a lot of sense, instead of having named specific factories, you would just instead have a few more factories that make guns. Like, for as many guns as that exist in this world, it would certainly make sense for that to be an option that to show the world was just very militarized and militaristic, and that they were constantly always at war. We could certainly see more of that. Because we don't run into that situation, we run into kind of an oddly different situation where you almost could take the story from the perspective of this world being actually very peaceful until 27/7 and the bombs dropped, and that's not really what I believe was going on. Alright. None of these codes mean anything. One of these codes probably will mean something at some very specific story-based computer. But that would be about it. It's saying daughter there, maybe that would have been son. But son is a lot shorter than daughter. If I had played as a male. Wow. So here we have a Chinese remnant officer. So let's turn that radio back on.
Your boys are dying on the Alaska front and offer nothing. Bring them home before it's too late. The gang of Wall Street fat cats and their Washington warmonger puppets have plunged the world into war to line their own.
See, it seems like it just gets clipped. And yeah, we could get
To the oppressed masses from the peace-loving peoples of China. Why do you continue to send your boys to die for your capitalist masters?
Yeah.
Do you think your
Just
leaders keep you safe if the bombs
whole
fall?
lot of
You will die while the Wall Street gang and their hangers-on live like kings.
lot of propaganda here trying to demoralize any
Greetings to the
resistance.
oppressed masses from the peace-loving peoples of China. Why do you continue
Now,
to
arguably,
send your boys to die for your
you have a complaint here, and here you have a voice actor that's either Asian or they're not. Maybe Asian but not Chinese. They all these Chinese remnant soldiers look like ghouls. So maybe ghouls were supposed to be Chinese people. But there really should be more of that. But she is definitely dropping the R's and the L's. Just kind of stereotypical, can't pronounce that. Although, as far as I can tell, it's a true stereotype that Asians don't have the ability to pronounce an R versus an L. They just don't have it in their language, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff happening in this radio, so I think we can turn this off. Because I have no interest in just listening to the same thing of any sense being repeated. It would definitely have made a lot more sense if we had run into more Chinese people. It would explain where these Chinese assault rifles are coming from. This being like the only location clearly shows that they were not confident in that idea. Although, in all fairness, there have been some video games that have definitely wimped out on making China the enemy in favor of hoping to be able to sell the game in China, which frankly kind of never happens because, well, when this game came out, there was probably still the ban completely on any video games or video game consoles. They eventually lifted the ban on video games and video game consoles in favor of just a heavy censorship system where only very specific and very few games just are being approved, and like none of the systems. China has, real world China, not this fake China in the game, has zero interest in its citizens playing video games or experiencing any art of any sort that is not 100% not just within the lines of China's perspective, but within the but also preaching Chinese propaganda, and they've stuck to that mentality. Encryption key. So now we have an encryption key, but we have no idea what the encryption key is for. I believe it was the game Homefront in particular that was going to have a full-on war between America and China, and with China even actually winning the first salvo and invading America, and instead they chickened out and made it North Korea, which is fine, and at a certain point you might as well have just made it a fake country if you instead. I think it's definitely worth mentioning too that that's very much a one-way street. There's plenty of Chinese stories, pieces of art where definitely China is winning a war against America. But yeah, particularly in 2022, you see a ton of cheap Russian games, cheap Chinese games that feel like they are either just trying to destroy Steam by lowering the average quality of a game on Steam. It doesn't really work because most people don't ever see these games, or they're just trying to maybe do some money laundering via that. But yeah, there was a brief point a couple of years ago where China felt like it was going to let video games into the country, and then a whole bunch of Chinese companies that wanted to make video games tried to make video games, failed, and now are trying to just make their money back by releasing them on Steam. But the problem with that is, because there was nearly a decade in which video games were not allowed, and the only video games that did exist in China were straight up copyright infringement of NES games and just ROM rips. Famicom clones is what they're called, because Nintendo was predated by the Famicom in Japan, so that these Famiclones flooded the market. So it created and taught a whole generation that video games look like what an NES game looks like, which video games in 2022 don't look like what an NES game looks like for the most part. There's a few throwbacks, but not. So it's just like you're at least 10 years, probably 20 years behind the curve as far as having the skill and just the cultural references with the average gaming community to actually make a game. They don't have the programming. Since you have a communist China, and I'm going to get into a political rant if I'm not careful here, but since you have a communist country that controls the education university processes as much as anything else, there's not universities in China that would teach you how to program games. There's not games you can play as a reference. Sure, people can use VPNs to get outside of the Great Firewall of China and play a few games, but just every little speed bump has hurt their chances of having any kind of industry or any ability to make games themselves. Of course, to wrap up here and not get into a rant, that has nothing to do particularly with this game. It seems like this is a very much just more basic communism is bad, America is good argument, at least as far as the story is really telling us. And this is another example of how Fallout 3 fails to really tell you the story. Like, we really need to know why the bombs dropped. Like, was it a mistake? It would be fine if somebody just flinched and dropped the bombs, and that was it. And it was just propaganda and communism versus capitalism, fear mongering. But not having that backstory, it's really hard to know why these Chinese remnants, these ghouls, would even be considered an enemy generally, other than the fact that they're shooting at us, which is the problem with all the other characters in the game also, is that they just shoot at you if you're not friends with them and you don't know why. So, this is a food processing facility, and I wonder if it actually was a Chinese front. Let's see. Even when it was fully up to running. You have some very standard names here: Thomas Jenkins, Michael Smith, Jonathan Apple, Joe Jones. So I wonder if those are fake names. Radiation levels exceed. You'd almost expect that these the food was still getting canned and processed now. Welcome, Agent Huang. Hail the People's Republic. Display settings. English US. The Republic of China salute you for your braveries. First, find established cover operation of Mama Dolce Food Creation Factory. Priority to rendezvous with selected team in covert operations of local area. Job and wage are secured for each within cover operation, required to inform when first stage of operation is completed. So they are doing some espionage, which, can I really blame China in this game for doing espionage? Not really, because that is just what countries do. These are definitely ghouls now. They spy on each other. It's silly and pathetic, but like most hostilities, the escalation is the only way forward. You can't de-escalate things easily, particularly when neither side really trusts the other, and neither side has really a good reason to trust the other. And please do not put any comments in this video spouting pro-American or pro-Chinese propaganda nonsense. Yeah. Like, that is one of the most irritating things, I think, for Westerners who are more around individual thought and the idea of conformity is basically a bad thing in Westerners' minds, is that there is definitely a lot of people that either are straight up being paid by Russia and China to put out pro Russia China propaganda on every single forum, every single post, everything. There was a game specifically that got review bombed in a actual legitimate review bomb compared to so many other games that claim they're review bombed when really they're just being reviewed accurately because the games are bad. These visuals are bad too. Um, called Devotion, and that eventually caused Steam to add anti-review bombing rules, and arguably never since then have they, I don't think, have ever actually implemented it on what I would consider a legitimate review bomb. In fact, now there is the push of the concept of positive review bombs, which I don't know what you're even saying at that point. Are you just saying when something gets a lot of reviews, that's too many reviews at one time, so we should discount those reviews even if they're positive? Because almost any good game that during its launch week would be getting a decent amount of positive reviews. That was a weird lockup. But yeah, I definitely do think the Chinese people and the Russian people, that there is a large percentage of them that, having completely grown up in a very constructed propaganda laden environment, don't see what other people from outside their country see about their own country. And same is true for the United States and every other country. Westerners in the United States, they don't see the U.S. the way people outside of the U.S. see it. But even me saying that, there are people that are so kind of brainwashed in their own political jingoism, I think is the right term, that they'll hear the part about me saying, yes, Americans don't see America the way that everybody else sees, but they won't hear the part where I say all the other countries basically don't see it. I'm sure North Koreans, for the most part, a lot of North Koreans think North Korea is the best country in the world. And I think pretty much everybody else outside of North Korea can agree that that's not the case. And so it's really important, I think, for everybody to really. So I think this all is the same place. It's just all falling down this way. To have it's very important for everybody to have a healthy dislike for countries in general. Like, as silly as that may seem, you really should hate every government everywhere, because they all kind of suck. They're all sort of around the idea of maintaining themselves, gaining more power, gaining more territory, gaining more resources, protecting their crony friends, their oligarch friends, who are often bribing one way or the other the politicians, or are the politicians themselves. But yeah. It definitely feels like this should have a quest around it, and it just kind of doesn't. Yeah, I think I've messed up too much on that. I don't want to lose all my bobby pins. There we go. There's really nothing in these. Yep. So this is just like a safe in a cave when there's really no reason for there to be a cave. There's nothing in the safe. While it might have been kind of cool if there was a quest that was revealed here and inside of like every packet of potato crisps and Instamash there was some kind of secret messages being passed along. Like, none of that really matters. It is oddly just kind of pointless. Loading yard, processing food. So we'll check out the loading yard next. Yeah. In a funny way, I imagine that this is supposed to be the robots would have been the replacement enemy. Oh, none of that worked. It's kind of a large amount of people. In this area. And this is an interesting experiment, certainly, on I can't hit this guy. It's an interesting experiment to have a loading yard and have like an encased middle area. Alright, well this is not going to work. And I guess if you had gotten here fairly quickly, you might have been able to do something. Alright. So here's an interesting zoomed in sniper rifle. You don't get the cursor going red when you do that, but you do get a nice zoom in. And so this is food processing. I wonder if this map is just a little too confused as its layout. Because it does kind of seem like we're going to go into food processing, maybe go down the stairs, and then go back to the loading yard. Do I really need to go into vats? Well, these guys are running a little too fast towards me, and maybe that's the problem as to why we didn't see them. But yeah, if every factory had been taken over by the Chinese, if that was just the standard thing, and then there was no robots, that would make sense. I bet that's what was going to be the idea at some point, and then they opted to kind of wuss out on that. But it also doesn't particularly serve the story well to bring in the Chinese or remnants, ghouls of the Chinese. It's just saying, yes, this war actually existed and it wasn't a 100% made up lie by the US government, and that there were actual Chinese people on the ground fighting with actual Chinese assault rifles. What would be a more interesting tale to tell in this modern time frame would be if you found one of these factories like this, and instead of it being a factory full of Chinese people, it was a factory of a bunch of US military making Chinese assault rifles, pretending like that was an invasion was happening, and it was just a whole false flag operation. Although using the phrase false flag operation even these days is kind of politically inflammatory. But it would make more sense in this world where we see just a ton of propaganda from in that 1940s style. Remember, it's 2,227 or 77. I think 77 is the current time. You wouldn't basically have no idea who the Chinese even are as the lone wanderer, and nobody really would know who they are or care. It's been 200 years since the bomb dropped. There's not any major indication that bombs also created a nuclear fallout situation in China. And arguably maybe there should have been some DLC or something that would address that. But we don't really see outside of the United States in any of the games. At least we haven't yet. But yeah, if the bombs had fallen in China also, then there might be a level of desperation for just survival and resources. That Chinese people would come to the wasteland to try and survive. Or, if the bombs didn't drop, they would come to try and either just finish an invasion, take over the country, or even make things better. I think at a certain point, a more interesting twist would be if in a future Fallout game the Chinese came and they were actually the good guys that you ended up siding with instead of Enclave, Brotherhood of Steel. They're kind of teased in this game like they are going to be the big bad guy, And they really aren't. That leaves to Arlington National Cemetery. And we still have a reason to grab scrap metal. I know there is one mission, either in Fallout 3 or Fallout 4. I don't even really know which, where you actually do talk to a Chinese soldier. But that's pretty much it. And that kind of narrative sadly just does not happen often enough in this game. We really are just approaching a end point as far as content, because really can't be that much more content. Did we already look here? We're gonna have to use the loading bay, loading yard entrances and exits fairly carefully here. Like, we need to get down there. This is a case where you would think in something like Skyrim, where they improve on these systems, there would be some kind of note or something. Like some kind of note or something that would be on these enemies. Something talking about what their missions are. Who they are. Chinese, like, dog tags or something. Something to add to the intrigue here. But not really seeing that. This requires a key. Which maybe means there is some kind of quest that we're going to have to come back through this and figure it out. Can't really go over there. Can't really go over there. It's not really anything in here. I do feel like this is something they should have thought of more. Those integrating inside and outside a little bit better. Food distribution, loading yard, outside. We were here. We want to not break a try again. Get some more experience. Yeah. Let's see, here. Loading yard here. That's what I think we want to try and hit. So let's see if we can figure out how to do that. Did we look over here? Yeah, there was the turret, and we kind of started here. And that goes to processing food. Not the loading yard. So we'd come in from the loading yard. Yeah. So yeah, I really have no idea. And it doesn't seem like the game is really giving me an idea as far as... See if you can jump up here. Seems like you would want something more. This is the only place that even feels like there would be something special here. And there isn't anything special here. Like, it does just look like... Yeah. Just looks like nothing. Alright. Let's see if we can exit the building. Should be this way. Yeah, you'd think somebody would have talked to me when I came in or left, or I would have found a key, or that encryption key would have meant something more, but it really doesn't. We have Arlington North and then Flooded Metro, and I almost wonder if Flooded Metro was just a metro that either I went through and it had multiple exits, or if it is just on the other side of the wall. I could imagine if we can find our way to the Citadel, which still feels like a bit of an if, then the Citadel may have that rah-rah jingoism for the old United States, and they may send you back to Mama Dolce's on some quest. But honestly, there I don't think are that many quests left on the main story or side quests. Yep. You would think there would be something here in the middle of this, and no, you'd think like a behemoth super mutant would come out of nowhere, or some level of monster would come out of nowhere. But no, you just have a building over this way and a mausoleum over here, and then a lot of gravestones, which again, I don't know if Arlington National Cemetery has gravestones at all. And you have a church in that direction that I bet you can't reach. This definitely feels like an area, if it was just going to be empty like this, where they should have... Interesting that there is one flower here, but there's no texture or anything on this gravestone to read. Like, it's believable somebody working on Fallout 3 or somebody related to somebody working on Fallout 3 actually died, and that's supposed to be a tribute to them. Although arguably putting that in the game often, well, kind of heart-touching, feels a little awkward too. It's weird, to say the least, to have a game where you're shooting people in the thousands and then say something along the lines of in loving memory of this person. What are these? They look like giant worms. Just mushrooms. Nothing special. Interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if you can't even get into this building. Arlington House. Okay. Why would there be a house in the middle of a cemetery? What are we gonna find in the house in the middle of the cemetery? Some stim packs, dirty water, a big book of science, sensor modules and conductors. Combat shotgun and shotgun shells. Just your standard repeated bathroom layout. Just moving things around. Did we look in here? And see, the one time let's check the basement last. One time we did see ghosts in this game. It went purple and I didn't even see the ghosts because I was just not looking in that direction. Like, it didn't take control of the camera or anything and make sure I was actually looking that way, so I was just like looking at the ground trying to pick up things. The layout of these houses aren't very varied, but they really don't have to be. It would be fine if there were 5 houses throughout this entire game that were in the exact same layout amongst 5 all the other different kinds of layouts. Particularly if there was 5 times as many houses. Of course, you run into the problem, as this game is so old, that when you open these doors and have to load in a different house, that's a speed bump to gameplay that's ideally not what you want. Bobblehead look. I believe that puts us at all the special bobbleheads. Interesting. Let's see. Yeah. So I'm not really sure. So this could be creepy. Certainly, I'm not sure if there really is a thing that's happening here. Maybe these guys are moving. Or maybe they're not. You would almost expect them to move and creep you out, but kind of doesn't feel like that's the case. Instead, you have here a picture of Abraham Lincoln, which arguably that should have been used more often. And it's just like a memorial to Abraham Lincoln. And that seems to be it. Doesn't seem like there's anything else going on here. Just for good measure. Now when we walk up here, let's turn around and see if there's anything following us. No. So it definitely feels like they reduced the number of houses because of the load screens and probably just memory constraints and the fact that this game really just feels like it's an unfinished game overall. But it definitely would make sense. There's another flower. For Arlington House to have been a nice named position where you could give the luck bobblehead. It is definitely coming from the idea, and this only slightly makes sense because of how old this game is, but this is coming from the idea of a more written strategy guide, something that you potentially would give the players, or even It's just visual glitches happening all back there. Or even video game reviewers. Like it definitely would make sense to say there's this location in the middle of Arlington called Arlington House. That's where the Lux statue is, versus it's the 5th house in the row on a specific lane, and only a few places even have lanes. And we are just back to raiders. Just back to the good old-fashioned raiders. Our health is at half, but I've been mostly playing this game with my health at 50%. Which, yes, I am still playing this game on very easy, and for as much time as we put into it, there isn't a real argument to get away from that. I think that would just be a waste of time. I can see maybe if we get to full max level, maybe then I'll play around with raising up the difficulty. Here's an interesting experiment of bushes you can't walk through. So, yeah, you could have had a lot of this, frankly, where you crouch down and then crouch up, crouch down, crouch up, and have enemies that do the same. For such a walled off area, you would definitely expect there to be more going on in this area. It seems kind of pathetically empty, like so many other parts of Fallout 3. Let's see what's in here. Just a wine, shot glass, and sexy sleepwear. So clearly there's supposed to be some creepiness / spookiness happening around this area. But it's so inconsistent and so just unfinished. So, flooded metro is my question. Can I actually reach the flooded metro here? Seems like I can. Yeah, where are we now? We are somewhere that is unconnected, that we haven't been before. We should also, since we're starting a new thing anyways, let's do this the right way. Like, I'm gonna have so many of these Chinese assault rifles for no good reason. That wasn't the only thing I was gonna do, though. Like, let's get our weapons. Let's see, I can't drop that right now for some reason. Dirty Chinese jumpsuits. You would almost think that there should be a quest around getting several of these dirty Chinese jumpsuits, that somebody would pay you fine money for that. But I don't think that's true. We'll read this manual, read this manual, read this manual. So many of these stats have already been maxed out anyways. 12 sugar bombs. And we can't drop anything at the moment. But that helps us a little bit as far as getting rid of junk. Oh, I guess we could probably come over here and think about getting rid of some junk. Like the weight gain here for 2 of these. It's kind of high. So just leave them. If need be, we'll come back to it later. Most of these things are fine. There is, I guess, this value. It's a bad conversion if you're trying to sell Nuka-Colas, but why would you be trying to sell Nuka-Colas? But to take 10 weight of Nuka-Colas and turn it into 1 weight of Nuka-Cola Quantum is actually a pretty good deal. Let's see. Yeah, well, I think that will help me a little bit. I have suspected this is going to be a fairly linear experience. That we'll just walk through here, and then we'll end up either in a completely different location or at the Citadel. Maybe specifically at the Citadel. The game has gotten far too easy with the ghoul mask. So I can't 100% complain about the fact that ghouls aren't playing any real storyline or gameplay role when I'm using the ghoul mask, which is stopping them from attacking me. But arguably they shouldn't have given me the ghoul mask until I'd maybe proven myself more by killing a bunch of ghouls, or they should have potentially just nerfed it and said that there's a 50% chance ghouls won't attack you, or they won't attack you if you're away from them, but once you get close they will smell you're human. Something like that. Alright, let's see where this leads us. This takes us to the capital wasteland, where we are right where the flooded metro is. Interesting. Notice how his legs are black, his arms are black, neck is white. And I think face is white. I think it's glitched out. Okay. So, yeah, we are just on the outside of that walled-in area. It is easier to just fast travel here. And now we'll have to go the other direction and see if that gets us anywhere. Very linear metro area, clearly done out of necessity, not out of a real desire to have yet another metro dungeon. Which, that's a mistake, certainly. They could have taken one of these metro dungeons and combined it with that needed. Right, well, what is going to activate a booby trap? I don't see a tripwire or anything. You see an X and some splat on the wall, and that's it. Maybe that's supposed to be a hint at booby traps, or maybe that's a hint that there actually aren't any booby traps. Yeah, you could have had booby traps certainly in that area, that other area also. Would have been something. I think it is definitely a mistake. I definitely think it's a mistake to walk through an area and just not find anything at all. Just no gameplay whatsoever in a video game is not ever the right answer. This whole thing does look like it's another just raider hangout. We're shooting people and we were knocking people over. I'm not sure how far this cave goes. We may have to just wander backwards and forwards. It's probably a pretty sad statement when characters, enemies in the game are nothing more than just opportunities to get experience. Where you can just walk up to somebody and... Have I ever actually picked up brass knuckles? And just shoot them? And then you don't really need to search them for anything because they're not going to give you any quest or anything like that. Well... I'm suspecting that this is going to keep on going, because this definitely looks like this is going to keep on going. So now we've got to run back, and maybe in running back we might see something different. It doesn't really make sense that you would go through this whole Arlington utility area and you wouldn't have a quest and there wouldn't be anything here, and then that would just pour you out into the Citadel. I feel like before I run into the Brotherhood of Steel and the Citadel, I should like have a bigger struggle. It really feels like it should be almost a gauntlet. to get to the Citadel. That spike knuckles the same as brass knuckles. Yeah. Yeah, it feels like it should be very difficult to get to the Citadel, and when you reach the Citadel, you should be rewarded for reaching the Citadel. Baseball bat. And yeah, I know I'm overpowered, but the game is definitely failing to adjust for that. And it certainly is going to be questionable what is the DLC going to feel like if we're at max level. It's just a leg spinning in a circle here. If we're at max level. Interesting, a dead rad roach. Another dead rad roach. Floating in the air, bent tin can. You almost feel like there was a computer monitor there. Explosive thing. Kind of nothing. What that implies is that there are just rad roaches in closets everywhere in this world, and then they're hunted for their meat. But oddly, it also implies that people built closets, just dead ends in their facilities. Okay. Am I getting twisted around here? Might be getting a little bit lost. Let's look at the local map. We started here, we went up here. This part seems to fall back down this part. Alright. Yeah, I'm guessing this is how it went. This almost feels like an experiment in parkouring over these panels. It's not a terrible idea, but the problem with this is, like, some people could take fall damage there and actually die. A small percentage of players could. And even if you don't take fall damage, you're going to add frustration to the player by adding that verticality option. So I think you probably would want a way to climb back up a ladder if you can jump down. It's not like you're really gaining a lot of ground if you did jump down or climb up from that point. Hunting rifles. Yep. There's a lot of stations here that imply they were just hunting the mirelurks and hunting rad roaches, and yeah, I guess that makes sense. Trying to find meat and food to eat. And unless we're going to run into a big surprise, and then there's some, like, several twists or turn or Myler Kings in this area. I don't know what I'd really expect. I half think I'm ending up somewhere a lot further than I thought I would, and that this is actually going to stick me like oddly in the middle of the metro area, in the middle of downtown DC. What we're not seeing here is anything that would feel like it feeds into a quest about the Chinese and Mama Dolces, or feeds into any real main story element. This just feels like yet another raider location. Now, in all fairness, we don't see a lot of raider locations underground in the metro tunnels, so that they opted to keep those above ground. Or ghouls would be about the only thing I would expect would stay underground and not be in the open world. So I think the balance of above ground versus underground for the ghouls is right. Let's see if this leads to another area. We've got some underwater, and I suspect that there is actually very little underwater stuff. Yeah, I bet those underwater tunnels probably end up in the same place. Just dry firing on all of these characters. Alright. Metro access employees only. Makes this feel like this probably leads to a door. Georgetown. Do we even know where Georgetown is? Yeah, I don't know a Georgetown. I don't think I've seen it on the map. I've heard of Georgetown certainly, but that this may be your reward for going through this long metro. May very well be that you get access to a new area. Do I think it's going to be a megaton equivalent city? No. Let's see. Get a lot of water all over the place. Foggy Bottom Station. Again, not a place I've heard of. One rad a second. And all this did was act as an escape area. Right. I think we've got to go out these doors to just see where these are. Like, this is a whole another area. Hmm. Hmm. Versus the whole underground area, underwater area here in Georgetown. It does seem... Is that a human? A dead settler. Interesting. Just came that way, right? Yeah. And this is not a door. I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe this is a much bigger underground connected area than we've seen with any of the other rail lines, and maybe in this experiment they realized that that was too complicated and that there was just too high of a chance of people just straight up not being able to find their way. I'm not really seeing any real reason why you would like want to be in this area. Alright. So if I had just gone a little bit further. Let's take a moment though. Let's impact ourselves a couple times. And we might as well just take a rat away, even though we could probably have waited. Yeah, I do think there definitely was a thought of potentially having a game like the Metro series, which very possibly came out after this point. It seems like I've been here. Tepid Sewer, Boggy Bottom Station. Georgetown West. Tepid Sewer. Dukoff's place. Alright, well. So. All I think that path does is take you under the river into the... Thought I was hearing my own footsteps there. So that takes you under the river into the next area, and then I suspect this other Foggy Bottom Station is just a metro area that I should have investigated and didn't. So we'll investigate it now. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere on this map, you know, guess this is just another example of like where yeah, I just think this is another great example of where the game makes it very easy to walk past something, particularly if you're just not going to be obsessively compulsively playing the game, and then not really mark it as a completed dungeon. Whereas other games, certainly even before this game came out, certainly knew that concept and would work with around that concept of having two different indicators on the map. One for when it's discovered and one for when it's been cleared. This game doesn't even tell you if you've cleared a dungeon. So that is something that you could probably make a mod for pretty easily. Like, I don't imagine it would be that hard to make a mod that check to see if everybody is dead in an area or if a percentage of people are dead in an area. Since that is the way this game is designed, even though that design does not really suit Fallout 3 particularly well. But yeah, once again, they could have given me a quest at the beginning of the game to clear out all the metro tunnels and just kill everything and anything in them, and that could be considered a good thing, certainly, as long as you phrase it right. If somebody at Megaton had given you the quest to make the metro safe. These raiders move fast enough that it is kind of worth it to use VATS for that auto lock on. You would think being near the Mama Dolces, they might have more Chinese weapons, but feels fairly random. I don't know why I'm picking up metro tickets. I suspect that this might be one of these areas where there's multiple exits. Either that, or we're going to just go up these escalators and find nothing, which is also a possibility. We do have a weird catch-22 here. I could walk through this metro area and find that this is the one metro that connects everything, which that would be bad because it's taken me a very long time to get to this point. Or we could find it does nothing and then it's just yet another generic metro area. It's too close. We still are just shy of 1,000 shots with our laser gun. He stepped on his own bear trap. Let's see. And anytime we find metro tickets, my assumption is we're going to activate one of these robots, which the robots certainly could have played a better role in a quest, if such a quest actually existed, to make the metro safe, because you could come over and hack them and then have them patrol, but then it's not like the metro stations get refilled with enemies, so they don't really need to patrol, nor do they move far enough through the entirety of the areas to the point where they would actually kill everything in an area. Here's that map. I think we've already seen that. Right. So this guy will take a metro ticket.
Security protocol initializing. Station security grid offline. Metro Central not responding. Threat level Omega. Lethal force authorized. Tickets, please.
And so you'd think you would just start attacking there.
Scanning for valid ticket. Verified. Thank you for riding with Metro.
Well, what's funny is he takes the ticket and then like he'll take the ticket from you, which you would expect him not to actually do that, because then potentially he would walk by you and ask you for another ticket later. Metro Central came from this direction, or it came from here. Maybe we want to go there. Before we go down this direction, though. Yeah, and we're only getting 2 XP for killing a robot at this point. 2 XP for disarming bear traps. Right. This opens DuPont Circle. Foggy Bottom Station. So, yeah, we've been here. Good to know. It's interesting, they kind of bounced the robot out of the way, moved it to a different location. Moving ahead. It almost would be better if the game straight up told you that there was no chance of you finding anything important in these metro areas. It'd almost be nice. Okay, so that connects there. And then this connects. Yeah, this map is, I think, a little confused. Or confusing. Right. We'll just take this. Metro Central is the more connected place, right? So this is part of a larger interconnected metro line. What you probably would have wanted to see here, if I dare say it, would not be terrible if there were some escort missions in some of these dungeons, some of these metro lines. Something that really gave you a reason why you're walking from point A to point B, and have somebody do the old walk and talk and explain what's going on. It could have been kind of a great time to have a companion, which we still have not gotten a companion except for dog meat. available to us. But yeah, have somebody with you, like your father, talking to you. We do see that one escort mission, maybe two, that exist with your dad, but they're not well implemented. So that's almost certainly why we don't see more of that. Georgetown. And this put me in another place. So I'm thinking, well, let's see if we can make it to the White House then, from Georgetown. We've been here, obviously. Can we? Who's gonna shoot at me? Yeah, if we were gonna... Here we have a centaur. And we have the Mr. Handy. This was the Mr. Handy I put outside. Which will just take 2 XP from that. And nothing from that. Wonder where the centaur actually came from, if that was a respawn. Okay. I just don't think you're going to make it to the White House from that location, but from the White House Plaza, there is the White House. So I think storyline wise, you pretty much have to assume that we don't get to the White House yet. Like something's going to break this wall and have us march to the White House, or there would be some other like sewer. Well, let's check this out. Have we been here? No. Yeah, this might simply be you take the manhole to the White House. What are we expecting to find in the White House? Not a lot. What you'd almost expect to find would be the Enclave. Some small remnant of it, pretending like they're in power. And it being either robots or just automated recordings. Or this door to Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll just go through here. Right. The radiation is high here, so we better get out of this area quick. Let's just see. Yeah. A whole bunch of nukes. Radiation levels increasing quickly. Yeah, this doesn't feel like there's anything here. Just a couple of ghouls. Well, let's quickly address that. Yeah. Presidential sub-level requires key. So, yeah, that potentially means we can't go any further until we have a main story quest. And that's always the problem with this game, is that you want to play the game more, and then you go and try your best to play it, and then they throw something in your way as a speed bump, so you actually can't play it. And I don't know if there would have been any harm by just letting me reach the White House now, other than it might spoil some surprise later. I definitely do feel like I'm playing this game in a fairly weird way, intentionally avoiding the main story. That's not how a lot of players would play this. A lot of players would just do the main story first, and clearly you would have power armor training and spend a lot of time in power armor if you do play the main game first. This almost feels like a jump, like somebody's trying to jump it with their bicycle or something. Motorcycle. We see a lot of motorcycles, but they're all broken. We also haven't seen a motorcycle factory, which, if you're going to once have a factory for everything, why not one for the motorcycles? Doesn't really make a lot of sense that there'd be a car in the sewer, assuming these are sewers and not parking lots. I guess they might be both. Here's your motorcycle. So this is Evel Knievel reference. Somebody tried to jump it. They went too high. They caught their head on the light and strangled themselves to death. And seemingly, with the exception of that Easter egg, which doesn't give you a weapon or an item or a name or a quest or anything. Yeah, you can even see these cones. Yeah, there's nothing there. Well, technically now it says I have visited the White House. Oh. So this is the White House. Well, let's go ahead and start with a radix. Okay. If this is the White House, then we need to find a presidential key. Yeah. Supposed to go over here and look. That doesn't seem to be the case, but maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if there actually isn't a presidential key here. None of this screams like laid out well enough that you would know where like the Oval Office is, or the where the remains of the upper floors would be, or even if this is the West Wing or the East Wing. So yeah. The only thing I could think is that it would be him. But it doesn't seem like it's him. Let's just look at the local map just to be certain. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything at all. Did we find everything else? No, we still really haven't found Falls Church East as a metro station or the Citadel. Which maybe we can't find the Citadel. Doesn't really feel like you can. And then we have this Tacoma Park and Tacoma Industry stuff. And then we have a Capitol building. Lame font. Alright, so I think we go here. And is our radiation levels too high? Sure, we'll take another rat away. We have so many. Right, and then our next goal would, I think, to like we have this National Mall area, National Archives. We've been inside the National Archives. Archive Secure Wing East. And then the mall. So maybe we need to exit via the mall. This was where we found the lady. And she was our companion for a very brief amount of time. And then decided she didn't want to be a companion. This really shouldn't be hard to reach an exit. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if this... Alright, so this is a whole different area that you had to go through the archives and come out the other side. And that does feel like just an experiment of having to go through a building, something that I'm glad they didn't embrace more of, because had they embraced more of that, that would have been confusing and frustrating. Although I am also wondering if this isn't actually the front of the building. Yes, it is. So you didn't have to actually go through the building. And almost certainly that was the right decision, and a decision that was made later on to effectively just move this building a little bit to the right, or remove rubble that would have blocked the path this way. Because we really haven't had any other examples of the game forcing the players to go through a building. Again, this might be just a scripted thing. Like, seems like Penn Avenue East is right there. So either it connects via Pennsylvania Avenue South this way, and this Metro Central arguably means there is an exit somewhere else, because we know we've found other Metro Centrals entrances. Yeah, clearly I can't just walk near it and discover the area. Pennsylvania Avenue being a big area, it would make sense if there's going to be a scripted sequence. Let's see. Yeah. Either it's this way, which it does seem like it is. Pennsylvania Avenue being this long, straight avenue, straight to the Washington Capitol building. It makes a lot of sense that the White House would be bombed out, and it's not like there's really a great idea as far as what could be in the White House. There could be some interesting characters or an interesting layout or design. Certainly, if Bethesda was a little bit more ambitious and were going to make a secondary realistic game set where they could reuse the map design of the White House, then they could reuse that design. If anything, the fact that they don't have two games set in the real world and they have instead just Fallout and the Elder Scrolls fantasy games makes a lot of the design of this area very wasteful. Particularly for the time that this game would have been coming out and being made, it's not like you could make a 3D map or model of the White House and then sell that 3D map and model to another company that would potentially want to use the White House layout also. Let's check this. Local map. Does seem like we haven't been here, which that does make sense. Seems like this is going to be ghouls, and we can't go this way. Wouldn't be surprised if this is another fairly short area. Yep. We spent a lot of time in these areas 10-20 hours ago, and I don't particularly look forward to the idea of spending a lot more time in these areas. Of course, now with Ghoul Mask and a gun that you can just dry fire and kill people with, it's a very different experience. Kill at least ghouls with them, with the one shot. And I can't help but suspect that this is probably the experience that a lot of game testers had. There is always this danger of having your QA testers and your game testers have late game weapons, armors, abilities unlocked, and then you just don't get the true feeling of what the first 20 hours, the first 30 hours of a game are, because even when they're starting in these starting areas, they may be invincible and overpowered. Alright. Capitol building. Let's turn around and see if we can reach the Capitol building where we are. Is this an area we've been? See, I'm half wondering if people have respawned a little bit, or if this is just sections and corners of sections. Yeah, we have a manhole to a sewer. And then we have a whole bunch of other stuff that we definitely have seen before. Let's go into sewer and just see if we've got a local map on the sewer. Yes, we do. So I don't think we need to take that. Okay. Zoom out a little bit here. So can we get to Metro Central? Let's go back to Pennsylvania Avenue East. Now that it's got some Talon Company people. Come on. Taking forever to animate. I was trying to grab some water there. Let's see. Go ahead and take everything from each of these people. And become over encumbered. We're good on rads, so we're probably good on that for a while. Right. Let's see. Can we repair these? Can we repair that? Can we repair that? Still can't drop anything because the game is just glitched, I think, at this point. Brass knuckles or spiked knuckles? Take spiked knuckles. I wouldn't be surprised if they are the same. Go ahead and repair our armor. That's the beauty of having the Talon people attack you. Back to gameplay. Yeah, we have an unfilled in triangle in this general direction, which makes me suspect that, yes, there is something here. We'd already searched that. Is it even worth shooting from such a far distance? These guys like never have anything on them. So they're always a waste of bullets. Which I guess that's fine. I'm not sure we're ever going to find a quest that actually gives us a reason to go through the core bags. Definitely feels like there's been 3 or 4 quests that I vaguely remember having when I first played the game that seemed to not actually have existed. It definitely comes from a place, I would assume, of the game giving you this feeling that there should be and could be a lot more quests. Seems like you could go down that route on the local map. Maybe find a few more things. But Metro Central here is probably more important to check out first. What's going to be weird is we're going to go through here and we're going to find that we've already been, probably. We just didn't walk out the door. Yeah, we've been all over this area. So we're discovering all these locations. Let's see. Yeah, so Capitol building kind of feels like you can't reach it unless it's somewhere in between that. And then these areas we probably can reach. And then I'm not 100% sure about Tacoma Park and Tacoma Industrial. Like, it's not the National Guard Depot that would reach that area. It would have to be somewhere around the Statesman Hotel, maybe. Alright, let's fast travel here. Okay. We are here. Capitol building. Is here. Have we literally not been in this Capitol building? I don't think we have. I suspect what happened here is we were not overpowered like we were in the past, and the super mutants were giving me actual trouble, and so I opted not to go into the Capitol building. Now, that is no longer the case. There's a filing cabinet behind that. So I can just... that's another residential key thing. So at some point we are going to get a quest that is going to give us presidential key. And almost certainly that is all just mainline storyline stuff. So maybe this side path here does something different for you. We haven't actually looked at the stats in a while either. Although it kind of doesn't matter. Where did that guy go? Well, so much for the gun. This is the second time that gun is broken on us. I'm searching far too much. You can hear the guy talking about eating you. since we're using the weaker gun, let's make an effort to actually use bats. I suppose there's always a possibility of them having a bobby pin. Although maybe there isn't. It probably wouldn't hurt for the game to just straight up tell you what the drop table is for certain enemies after you've killed a bunch of them. You're learning that subconsciously anyways. Or you could learn it by looking it up online, certainly. Clearly there are different drop tables, which are just lists of items that can be dropped and their odds and percentages for different enemies. So if you told me that the items I'm looking for would never be on a super mutant, which it seems like that's the case, then I would be happy to not waste time searching bodies. Did we find everything? Presidential Metro. Yep. In a lot of ways, it feels like the Presidential Metro and things locked by the Presidential Key are just going to be shortcuts to through an area that in this case will have already been cleared out and searched. I can hear people fighting, so Talon mercenaries fighting super mutants. And at one point, Talon mercenaries were probably a real challenge, but they've long since stopped being that. You have an overlord. Let's see. Just gonna leave the Talon combat armor. Take the laser rifles. Take the tri-beam laser. Right. We could look at our weapons. Since we have this one, we can now repair it with the other one. Which I guess that does kind of also highlight that the tri-beam laser is not particularly a named laser gun. But it is a fairly rare laser gun. I'm starting to get that crick in my neck again. Right, so looking at the local map, seems like we have to go this way. This feels like what they've done is they've put a lot of different enemies all in one area as kind of a gauntlet. It's not a bad idea. This guy's moving too fast. There is a slight danger, certainly, if you're getting overexcited because you're fighting so many different enemy types. Missing the fact that there's dead bodies around, missing potentially a bobblehead. Or a book or something. Let's see. Got lucky there. But every time we do this, never really get rewarded. Like being able to lockpick a very hard closet this late in the game and getting a bunch of junk, a single book and a couple Nuka-Colas is not enough of a reward. Like, there's a game called Dying Light 2 that just came out that also has that lockpick main mini game, and yeah, thinking about finding yet another game that has lockpicking in it does not particularly appeal to me. Let's see. I do want to look at stats and skills. Like, sneak can go up, unarmed can go up. So I don't even know what the book is that increases sneak. Pugilism Illustrated is what gets unarmed going up. Melee weapons can go up, which maybe that is Grognar the Barbarian that increases that. Big guns could go up. And barter, of course, could go up. But we are fairly consistently finding books that are increasing stats that are already at 100. I kind of wish that wasn't the case. I wish they would just secretly switch the books to things that are more useful. It would make a lot more sense if this game had 300 books and you only needed to collect 100 of them to get all of your stats up to 100. And those 300 books changed into the books you need and made the whole experience a little bit more balanced of an experience. So you don't have this scenario where somebody who really was trying to speed run could run around just to get... Alright, we've got a behemoth super mutant in the capital. And see, I don't know if that killed... I guess it didn't kill the guy. How much do I get for killing that guy? You'd almost assume that there would be a quest to kill all the behemoth super mutants. But no, not really. Come on. You have a whole turret. This guy's trying to run away. So I half expect what would have happened here is that you could have come in here and tried to hack some terminal or something in the middle of that combat. But I'm not really seeing a terminal. Yeah. Guess it's over here. Turret control. But yeah, I seriously doubt very many people would have gone this way in the middle of that fight and then turned on the turrets and then been happy for not getting that experience for killing the behemoth, or the actual physical experience of yeah, that just would have not been a fun experience to have the turrets do all the work for you. We'll take the fat man. And this is about the only place that's big enough. Like big congressional domed area. It's about the only place big enough to see missiles, pulse mines, metal helmet, metal armor. There's not anything particularly special about him other than he is just giant. And so how many of these have we killed now? 3? There are, I believe, 6 in the entire game. One of which seems like it's very low likeliness that you would actually find it. Probably good enough for now. And then we are just kind of back to where we were. Go a direction, see where it leads. You would almost expect that this Hall of Columns, that this would lead to rescuing someone or doing something very special, but we don't have that quest to actually tell us that. Just looking around. Let's go through this guy. Just clip through him. Which, that is one of the things you have to basically do in a game. when you have such a giant creature that can go anywhere and fall anywhere. The only other way you address that, and it's kind of a more old-fashioned way, is to have a scripted, animated way in which he falls in a very specific spot to die, or he dissolves in the goo that you can walk over. That also would work. A lot of games don't bother to even try and explain it, and just have practically everybody dissolve into goo, or just despawn. Okay, there's a conference hall up here by the looks of it. So I'm assuming what you do is either you come out of here when you're doing the main story, and that's the exit, or you go down here to the Hall of Heroes and the Hall of Columns is what it actually was said. Just go ahead and try and force that because we don't care. We're probably at 25 to 30 mini nukes at this point. Yeah, there's never going to be a situation where you can pull out the Fat Man and fire mini nukes. It's just never going to happen. You'll never have it on you, and you'll never have time to think about using it. It would almost make sense for the super mutants to be genetically created by the Enclave as a way of protecting historical sites. This is yet another place. Alright, we need to actually put some things away. Chinese pistol that does 2 damage is not worth holding on to. Police baton's not worth holding on to. Some of these guns I'm fairly certain I already have. Like high versions of these. Try and clear up as much heavy things as we can get rid of. Even stealth boys are not really worth holding on to. None of these ammo things have weight to them. It's still very possible that there could be something around here that I've yet to find. Well, I need to also increase my health. Let's not die. Still getting that 25 damage for that. Destroy that guy quickly. the Hall of Columns, which seems somewhat true to its name. I bet you can't ever get up there. Is probably more of a Talon company place. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's actually fairly small. But I would be a little surprised if it is just this area and that's it. And then we have to walk back the way we came. Well, we are almost to a level up, which I'd like to end on a level up, but we may not make it to that. And yeah, we have almost kind of visited every location. Yeah, there's a couple places certainly that feel like they are storyline locations. The Citadel. The only thing left is like L'Enfant and Tacoma Park. And then should just move the main story after that forward and the main story will pretty much wrap up everything except for the DLC. Come on, let's see. So there was a turret here. Just 3 guys in a row. Still feel like we're getting... it feels like we're a little bit further away from leveling up from where I would think we would be. We're getting like 25 XP every time we kill something, which seems like a lot, but clearly isn't. Barter up to 50. Unarmed and sneak and melee. Let's see, can we get everything up to 80? Yes, we can. And then a few more things in the barter. We are at level 25. There are 5 more levels after this. And, yep. As far as other quests, now, let's see, what could we do? Well-rested benefit for 8 hours no matter what bed you sleep in. Which that would be kind of nice. Want to rethink all these. I pretty much do that every time anyways. Like 30 life points, I think, is probably Not what we would want. Let's see. The thing I think you would probably want to do here is we either go further down, being able to do specific actions with unarmed, or you go with like rad resistance of 25%, which might be interesting. I think we want the Mr. Sandman perk. Because then that lets us potentially go to the underworld and kill that lady and get the other guy and move the story. As we're getting towards the end of the game, more and more evil type perks and ideas are going to have to be unlocked. Same idea falls with every time you feed, you lose karma as a cannibal. Getting fingers on corpses and being a lawbringer. It's not something I think you really want. Paralyzing palm is something we would want. Alright, so first things first is we should take Mr. Sandman. And the only reason we're doing that is because when you look at the stats, there is a stat specifically for Sandman kills. But there is also a stat for paralyzing punches and robots disabled, contracts completed, and corpses eaten. So each of those items in the last 5 perks are something to think about taking. And arguably, I won't have enough level ups to pull off all of those. So while we are going to be, I think, somewhere around 98% there to having like the perfect leveled character, there is something I think I messed up with by taking intensive training early on, or taking a perk that was unnecessary early on. This game definitely does not help you in any way plan those actions or plan what perks you're going to take before you're presented with them. Whereas if this were a longer RPG style MMO game, they would have shown you all the skills and all the perks, and you would have done a lot of planning and thought. Now we're getting like 12 XP also. So we may be approaching diminished returns with even shooting super mutants. We might hit a level where no single enemy is going to give us quite as much XP as we'd like. Although I don't think it's going to matter, because I could probably just get well-rested bonus right now and turn in the map module for all the locations I've found and get at least one level, if not 2 or 3. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually bumps me up all the way to the max when I turn in the geo module. Let's see. We're still looking for bobby pins. Still trying to figure out where this goes and what this does. Because yeah, it definitely feels like we're being led down a path. There's a lot of area here. I feel like what I'm probably doing is probably a floor up, or I'm going down, not upward. Now we're in the conference hall. Nothing is visually standing out as a area where something I'm not really running into a place where a key would just obviously be. I guess it's bouncing between 25 XP if they're a super mutant master, or if they're just a standard super mutant. That was a bad way to start. They are really getting fairly repetitive on this one. And that almost makes it feel like there might be a quest to search through all these areas, but there couldn't be a storyline thing that you have to find hidden behind a locked door, even if it was a locked door that also had a code behind it. That still wouldn't work. It would have to be a locked door that also has a code behind it that also has a person with a key on their person. So just force that. Now if I zoom in like this, does that increase your odds of hitting things? I don't think it actually does. Apparently we're over encumbered. Lying congressional style, bottle caps, and a toy car. What did we just pick up that over encumbered us? Gun. Items. Let's see, assault rifles. Repair. Sniper rifle repair. Missile launcher repair. Laser pistol repair. Assault rifle. So yeah, this is like a conference room, but not anything particularly special. It's not Congress. Maybe it was supposed to be Congress and they couldn't. It's not the Senate floor or anything like that. Still have these radios that are not playing any role. Ham radios really couldn't do much either. Like, it would be fairly unimpressive if it turned out that activating the ham radios at some point called in for like backup and the Brotherhood of Steel came and saved the day. Every time you activated one. So we came here. We shot that. Well, this is gonna get confusing fast. Real confusing, real fast. I guess I probably went through here. Nope. Yeah. It's a little too many ways to potentially end up in the exact same place. That's very natural floor layout and design, but it's not very natural video game design. So, supposed to go through this secret wall where they seemingly were spying on people. Maybe they were spying on each other, or maybe this is the Chinese spying in the heart of Congress. But we're still not finding anything. You would think if there was going to be a key, it would be on that podium for everybody to see and find. It's not like they can throw a lot of new enemies or anything at you, so and it would almost make sense for the presidential key to be up here in places like this, but we've never found that to be the case, where you get to a higher area and then that higher area has something. Because yeah, if there was just straight up a key that you saw on the wall that way, but you couldn't reach it, that would be pretty great gameplay design to say, this is what you're looking for, but you've got to go the long way around to get it. But that's not the case. And what's going to be irritating now, we apparently had some scripted super mutants spawning in. We want to now just leave this area as quickly as possible to the mall, which I'm hoping we can actually do. Because I think we've done everything. Hoping we've done everything. Yeah. We've done everything except for go through the presidential metro. And we've got a lot of oh, we better hurry. Wow. We should almost end on that death. Alright. These guys are all over the place. Alright. Okay. Next person. I need to just switch over to a sniper rifle. Unless we want to try a fat man on him. Hey, let's try a fat man. There you go. And it immediately broke. Thing does not seem to be working. Like, my crosshairs definitely don't feel like they're lining up to do much damage. We have 326 stim packs, so we could fight all day if necessary. Let's go ahead and try a missile launcher. This guy is missing. Seems to not really have a good chance of hitting people. He's just ducked kind of behind the think this probably shows, though, where you run into the same problem over and over again, though, if you were to just try and seriously use these big weapons, is that they are just not good. Like, their aim is too low. There we go. Next. Let's see. Back to the sniper rifle now. So that's a mess. That is a real big mess. We are somewhere. I don't think we're actually particularly anywhere special either. I think if we look at the local map, we've probably been to some of these places before. Maybe not, though. Maybe we are on the other side of the Congress in a more higher up location. I also want to point out just how useless a nuke even is. But that didn't help me. Let's see. Items now. Fat man. Too many guns compared. Fix that one, and then get back to that weapon. Yeah, that's an area we've been before. But maybe we are on the other side of a wall as far as the Washington Monument. Because this does feel different. Again, immediately over encumbering myself. Yeah, that oddly did feel different. Because I feel like it was a whole different design and layout. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe I've just been playing this game so much that I don't even remember. As we walk towards what I assume is the Lincoln Memorial, because I don't know if there's multiple pendulums. We're seeing bunkers here that I don't recognize. The bunkers seem to be empty, which also seems suspect. Isn't this exactly where we put up the satellite dish? I think it was. That was an odd quest in the way it was implemented. Well, here would be a new metro area. To Museum Station. We're not discovering anything by walking that way. What I must be remembering is that maybe on the other side of this in the other direction was something. Maybe not. Maybe this whole area has been redone. That would be weird. Yeah. Still have Brotherhood of Steel people. And we could go up there. No reason to really do that. And yeah, around here, you can go this way. And that way, I think, is actually the Lincoln Memorial. Interesting. So, we apparently just hadn't been through the Capitol building. Okay, and so that then leaves us with a couple things. We have Irradiated Metro, L'Enfant Plaza, L'Enfant South, so just this generic area, and then Tacoma Park and Tacoma Industrial. If we can figure out how to get there, we basically need to just investigate here, here, and here, and see if there's a path. If not, then I don't know if there really is a way. As I zoom out a little bit here more, I don't think there's a ton of other stuff. This riverboat landing I still feel like is DLC stuff. Falls Church East is obviously something we could do. Also, we desperately need to go to Megaton. Also. So, yeah. Let's fast travel to Megaton. Let's run through our paces. Let's see. So now we have all of the special. Everything is powered up. And we have 4 remaining skill points. Ones to consider. Right. That one. That one. I think I'll just, for my own sanity's sake, drop everything off there. Like that. Then I will come over here and drop off anything of weight that we don't want to hold on to. It got me down to 94. Then we'll come over to this one and Drop off this 8-ball. Vision battery. Metro tickets. Let's see. As far as remove all of our ads and things, we don't really need to mess with that. So, we'll take dog meat with us and see if he starts following us. Yes, he will. So we're gonna, now that we have the puppies perk, I will just take him as a companion.
All of us here thank you for...
So we're gonna have the panting dog sound effect. I wouldn't be surprised if dog meat gets killed very quickly as a companion. Like, it's just gonna come down to whether or not dog meat is programmed to be at the same level as me.
What do you need?
So take all scrap
Well, all
metal
right. Let me count out.
for 83 XP,
Well, back to work.
which getting books and getting scrap metal may no longer really matter. And we should potentially just be done with it. In a funny way, I still need like my ghoul mask repaired. So even though I just tossed everything in there, I still need to talk to her.
Don't mind the smoke.
Notice how the other guy
Unless it's a...
totally
Sure thing.
stopped moving.
Come back soon.
Okay. And then fast travel wise, we would really want to go to the underworld, wherever that is. Find that again. And do a Sandman kill on that girl, even though we have no reason to kill her. I'm going to start at the Statesman Square, and then I'm going to look, and then I'm going to fast travel if this local map doesn't look like it can push me in that general direction. Vernon East Tacoma Park. Right. Yeah, where I am right now, I think implies that to get to Tacoma Park, you do go through this sewer. Which we started this whole episode in a sewer. Yeah. And we're going to end this episode in a sewer. Yep. We have not been through this metro area. The metro areas. So, yeah, we go through this. We'll probably come out here and check out Tacoma Industrial. As far as other locations on the map, I don't believe there's really anything left. Now, I have confirmed that the National Guard outpost is the place where you need the keys and the codes to get some stuff. So I may spend extra effort once we've done the full main story to get that extra stuff. And I'm still pretty much assuming that the places like Raven Rock and having better relationships with Little Lamplighter and Vault 87 are all single player story stuff, and I am still pretty much assuming that Riverboat Landing is DLC and the Citadel is something. The only other thing to check out would be Falls Church East, the Radiated Metro, L'Enfant Plaza. So there's a decent chance after next episode we will have done everything side quest wise there is to do. We could also potentially just listen to these radio stations and see if maybe that would give us some quests if we got really desperate for more content. I don't know why we would be desperate for more content. Once we get to level 30, which we'll almost certainly do, I'll bring everything up to 9 at the very least. We already have the bobblehead for big guns, so putting a couple of points into big guns to get it to 100% would be fine, but then there's kind of no reason to rush it either. I may not have the bobblehead for sneak or unarmed, so that's just, or even melee weapons, so that's why I'm trying to slowly work my way up to everything being at 90. But if we level up to, if it's level 28 at that point, we should probably give everything we want up to 100. Most of these perks, as I've said in the past, are pretty useless. And as far as main quest, we've done only 24. We found 158 locations. It seems like there's probably somewhere around 175 locations, or slightly below that. We've only hacked 96 computers. It certainly feels like it's been a lot more. Although technically by this number, we've only killed 539 people. And that certainly feels like that is a very low estimate of what really happened. We've lockpicked 3 times as many computers as we've hacked, which definitely highlights an imbalance. But even the number of people killed really highlights how there's a lot of walking in this game and not a lot of actual shooting of people, which you could definitely have addressed that. Like, I kind of want to just do everything once. So picking pockets, pants exploding, Sandman kills, paralyzing punches, robots being disabled. I don't know if I'm ever going to get that perk. Contracts being completed, corpses being eaten. Mysterious Stranger as a side option is pretty useless. Item wise, we are still very much using the same weapons over and over again, holding on to the Chinese assault rifle, which we have like 5,000 bullets for. I guess the Chinese assault rifle probably is better than even this Wazer rifle. Still using the ghoul mask, still using the poplar hood, still using the ranger battle armor. As soon as we do get the training to use a power armor, you're going to have the temptation to always use power armor, and then that's going to take a lot of your weight metrics up. And I don't think the game does as good of a job as it could have to really motivate the player to not always use battle armor and power armor once the player has the ability to use power armor. Anyways, it's been 3 hours and 20 minutes. We're going longer than even I want to. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.